Hi, everyone. It's Anagram here with the Divorce Allies and Anagram Creates. And this is a topic that I personally go through and I help a lot of my clients go through. I work with a lot of women, especially in the midst of transition, whether that be in divorce or maybe they're transitioning from a big corporation to start their own business or really anything. But I think as women, we have a really hard time when it comes to creating content and actually putting yourself out there. When you're doing it for a company, when you're doing it for somebody else, it's very easy. It's simple. You don't have that personal attachment to it. But when you're not only putting your face, but putting it into the world, saying, "These are my thoughts. These are my ideas," and naturally people judge us, and I think we get very self-conscious with that. So in the Divorce Allies, we had a circle session this week about trauma responses. And, I realized that when it comes to posting content, your trauma responses come up, whether that be in the ways you think or not. I have a little presentation here, and I'm going to walk through some of the different responses that our bodies sometimes go through when it comes to creating content and pushing that content out to the public. I know when I started my content journey, again, it's easier to create it for my clients. It's my work, but it's not necessarily my field, my industry, my words, my process, any of that. So it's easy for me to take brilliant people's ideas and turn them into something beautiful. Now, when it's actually something that I'm creating on my platforms, I sit there and I question everything. I question if I'm using the right verb, the right adjective, if I'm saying that something that sounds silly, if I'm saying something that sounds super obvious or cliche. I get into this cycle, and it's really easy to stay in that cycle, and it's hard to just post it out. But I promise we all go through this. You're not different. You're not unique if you are scared. A lot of us go through this. So I promise I'm here with you, and let's just get into it. So in this presentation that I made, I want to just kind of relate some of the trauma responses back to content creation, as well as give you some tangible and practical steps you can do when it comes to creating that content and getting used to it and posting it out. So if we dive into some of these quote trauma responses, I don't necessarily think they're trauma responses in the face of creating content, but it is something that our nervous system does where it kind of debilitates us to do anything about it. So if we're going through the four different trauma responses, which are fight, flight, freeze, and fawn, how are they showing up? So when I originally was thinking about creating these slides, I was thinking about how I personally get super flighty when it comes to creating content, but then I liked how I kind of flipped this into how our trauma responses come into play when it's actually about creating the content as opposed to just posting it. So let's focus on just like the creation part of it and how some of our behaviors come out depending on how we act in some of these situations. So in the freeze mode, you might have tons of ideas, but you're not even sure where to start and you just physically can't start. You sit there and maybe have lunch with your girlfriends, your sisters, your cousins, and you have all of these beautiful, magical, wonderful ideas. But the idea of putting them on paper, into a Word document, even into Canva, it just feels debilitating and you just literally can't start it. That's what freeze would be. When we go into fawn, it might be, okay, what will people think? I want them to like me. I'm not sure what to say. Is this right? Is this wrong? I don't want so and so Susan down the block to think that now that I know everything. It's like all of these second guessings. This is where I used to be. I used to be a big fawner of, oh my gosh, well, what is this old client, old neighbor, old professor gonna think of me? She has no idea what she's saying. Why would she even post something like this? I used to be such in the fawn stage. Then if we transition to the flight stage, which is I'll just redesign my page again instead of posting. This I see all the time. I see a lot of business professionals, instead of just posting anything, they decide to do anything else except for the posting. Because I think in our entrepreneurial brains, we have to be busy. We have to be working to be considered productive. But we're kind of avoiding the actual thing that's happening, which is posting or creating that content. So I think that that's very, very common and a big excuse. I use it probably daily, weekly, but definitely weekly, maybe even daily, of, well, I have so much other work to do. Why would I put 20, 30 minutes in creating content for myself? But truly, yes, okay, there might be some times where that's real, but that's just an avoidant flight situation instead of actually just dedicating a few of those minutes to creating something. And fight is, I get angry at myself for not being further along. I think we could put anxious instead of angry. We could say disappointed. Any of those emotions of like the fight, I think, is very common. I think for myself, I get disappointed in myself if I haven't posted. I get angry with myself if I haven't posted. And then it turns into the spiral where I think at any point, one of these trauma responses could then latch onto the other. And it's kind of just like this ever going loop, depending on your emotions of the day, depending on how much you have on your plate, depending on just honestly anything. And it's really tricky to get out of this big response loop if you're just continuing with it. So that's why I wanted to kind of just bring this up, because it is so common. I think a lot of times we're just scared to be visible, which I know is kind of a interesting thing to say, because as women, we'll go out there and get our hair dyed a new color, we'll get our fingernails done, manicure, pedicure, get a whole new outfit just to be seen. But something about being visible in the digital world seems out of our control, overwhelming, and it's really hard for us to get kind of out of this trauma response loop. So we're just going to normalize that fear. We're going to normalize that it's okay to feel this. We're going to normalize that it is unnatural to be seen by hundreds, thousands, millions of people. And no point of humanity was that possible before social media came into play. So just remember that it is quite unnatural for us to be seen by so many people. So I think it's like an evolutionary kind of emotion that we feel, that it is hard for us to put ourselves out there in social media. So don't worry, it's normal. We're going to walk through it. We're going to get through it together. And another reminder, you are not lazy or unmotivated. Your nervous system is just protecting you. And we have to work with our nervous system to say, thank you for getting nervous. Thank you for avoiding this. But in order to build my business and in order to be seen, in order to be heard, in order to get to cash flow, we need to put our stuff out there. And then I'm having these constant conversations with my nervous system as well, of like, hey, stop second guessing, put it out there. It's going to help us in the long run. So now that we've kind of identified some of these different responses and how they show up in our actual content creation, I wanted to take a moment to really sit and ask yourself why you have a lot of these feelings. So ask yourself now, go through all these questions yourself, but when I think about posting, what emotions show up? So for me, it's a lot of anxiety and nervousness. I second guess everything. What do I fear will happen if I'm fully seen? And see, that's so interesting. I don't know. I don't know what I fear. I think I fear judgment. I fear people talking about me. I fear the lack of control of the narrative, which I think is huge. Where do I feel it in my body? Feel it in my chest area where my heart is. It's like contraction. And that's a lot of where my anxiety is held. What do I think or feel when I see other women posting confidently? I think I feel like, oh, well, that is so natural for them. They've been doing this forever. Of course, they're trending because they have such a natural presence. And I don't know why I can't relate that to myself, because I do. I've grown with my camera abilities and how natural I feel now on camera as I used to be. And I don't think I'm any different than other people. I think it's just, I feel like they have a credibility that I don't, which is also silly because they started in the same place I have. So, again, just talking through mine. What voice in my head tells me not to share, and what does it sound like? I have this very protective inner self, and I think that's why a lot of my trauma response comes into the flight and fawn, because it's always wanting to protect. It's wanting me to get out of any situation I can't control. So that's kind of what that voice is telling me. Um, is it mine or someone else's? Parents, ex, society. This is funny because I think it used to be friends, but then I realized a lot of my friends are in the same boat as me. I didn't want my friends to judge me. I didn't want my friends to, make fun of the concept that I'm trying to be a quote influencer. But I think everyone in my generation is seeing how successful people can be, and there's no longer judgment around that. So I don't know. I think it is my little voice that's always trying to keep me safe. And what is that voice trying to protect me from? Mm, I don't know, because truly the worst thing that could happen, if by putting yourself out online digitally, by putting out neutral, educational, helpful content, some people might have some negative things to say. And you know what? That doesn't matter because they're just a username. So all of these things, just walking through. But I hope by asking yourself some of these questions, you kind of start humanizing that voice a little bit inside of your head and realizing maybe it's not such a big deal, because I know it helps me. Okay, so I wanted to create some micro steps to create some of this content. So if you're at the position right now where you are just feeling very stuck and you can't even post anything, start with some of these very small action items and then see how it helps your brain kind of get into the rhythm of creating content. So the first one, just write down notes, graphics, pie charts, lists, bullet points, anything of just ideas, phrases, stories, case studies, anything, whether that's in a journal or if you're doing it online on like your notes app or a Word document. Just get it all out of your head, because we're not saying you have to post this. We're just saying that you need to get it out on paper. You need to get it out of your head, because when we have so many ideas going on, plus the stress of trying to post, that's why our body kind of goes into this, I can't even think about it. So I'm just going to now cook dinner instead of thinking about content. So at least just start getting those content ideas out. The second one, it kind of goes along with that, speak them out. So in addition to writing, I would also recommend speaking. So if you're driving, if you're on a walk, if you're on the treadmill at your house or whatever it might be, find your phone and in the voice notes and just get out ideas. Talk about situations you've had. Think about, if you have current clients, think about any questions they might have had. If you even have just ideas for content, like, oh, I would like to have a blog series. Just again, try to get everything out, and then you'll start seeing that your head's a little bit lighter and these more creative thoughts can come in. The next is to save. So save and collect any posts that you see from other people that you really like or admire. Start to notice why you like them, why you're drawn to them, and think about how your tone could kind of start matching this. Or maybe if it's a completely different industry, why are you so drawn to that post? Is it because of their tone? Is it because of the artwork? Is it because of the structure? Just like any type of these smaller things, just start to save them. You don't have to analyze them right away, but have a folder. If it's on LinkedIn, maybe send them to a friend, send them to me. You can, if you just need a place that to like place hold some items. That's what I tell my clients. Anything you see on LinkedIn that you like, just send it to me. And now I have a reference. If it's on your phone, just screenshot the image, create an album on your phone that says like inspiration. Again, like same with Pinterest, all of these things, just have an area that, so when you get to the point that now you're ready to create some content, you can go back to this inspiration folder and see really what is inspiring you. Next is really good is just to start commenting and liking and interacting with other people's content. This is great when you want to start like putting your toes in the water, but you're not ready to post things on your own. This is a great way for your profile to just show up. So go through your feed, comment intentional things, not just OMG hard eyes, like find a reason to actually comment. If you have a follow-up question, if you have a very specific comment, like that is so interesting. I use lavender to help me sleep because blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I'm just thinking random off the top of my head. But this is good because it helps you kind of normalize being on social media without actually posting yet. Also, set a goal, create just a simple content goal. Like next month, I will post one post. In 2 months, I will post every week, just so you can start having that reference sheet. So then, again, I always advise just get things out of your head. It helps you to just have like a simple structure and you can always build upon that. So setting goals, even if it's, in 3 months, I will have 3 channels going, or in 6 months, I will have one channel. Anything, set a goal. And just create. So again, this doesn't mean you're starting to post yet. It just means you're starting to put some oomph around the ideas. So maybe you head onto Canva and you create some templates because you're thinking, okay, if I have a good template, maybe I can actually visualize what would be in this template. Maybe I can actually start visualizing what this would look like on my LinkedIn. So just start creating anything, whether it's on Canva, whether it's scripts, if you want to do some type of video like this, even if it's just taking some pictures that you would like as a background image. Just put your creative artist hat on and just start kind of creating. Because again, then once you have all 6 of these going, when it comes to the time that you're very ready to start posting, you will have the whole foundation that you need. So if these are the very simple micro steps, the next would be kind of like the bigger picture, really helping you to start brainstorm and getting to that finish line and past the finish line, right? Because once you start creating content, it's an ongoing situation. So this is really good to help start, but then also keep that momentum going. So find an accountability partner. If you have a friend, a colleague, even if you're in the Divorce Allies and you have other members going through the same process, which we definitely do at this time and at this specific time, there are a few members going through the same thing. Link up, say, you know what are you struggling with right now? How are you finding solutions to that? You can create check-ins together, you can have virtual coffees together, and just kind of go back and forth and really hold each other accountable. That's the whole point. Even if you're showing up and that's the accountability aspect, that's still better than nothing. Share with a trusted person, and I include the word trusted because, again, if we go back to some of our insecurities, we don't necessarily want to ask the person that we're scared is going to judge us, right? So we want like a neutral opinion. A lot of times, like when I'm working with my clients, I'm their trusted partner in this. Again, they are paying me, but I really try to come from a neutral standpoint as if I was a consumer, if I'm really getting into the heads of your target audience, how would they want to consume? How would they want to listen to your message type of thing? So you can have a coach, a friend, a family member, someone though that is kind of neutral and trusted that you can really act as a soundboard with you. Using AI tools and just like ChatGPT in general. So this is really helpful if you're ever concerned your content isn't making sense, it's not hitting, maybe you want to completely remove any biases. This is where AI can do so much of this for you, but in this specific instance, this is where you really can use AI to be your complete neutral soundboard and making sure that your grammar is correct, making sure that it's your tone, making sure that there's no controversy included. Any of those things, I highly recommend AI doing. I have a client right now who is in an industry where she cannot have any controversy or opinions really when she's posting. So not only am I kind of the soundboard for her, I also run it through AI just to ensure that there's nothing that could even be taken out of context, because her job kind of depends on her completely staying neutral. So it's you know Melissa and I have created other AI trainings, but AI can do so much. But for this specific instance, use AI for that. You can batch content offline. So if you're kind of really in that creative mode, I would say stay in that flow and just create, 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 create. Again, we're not saying you have to post it and schedule it out right then and there. But again, hone in the creativity and just stay in that mindset for a little bit and just batch produce. So even what we mean by batch producing, so maybe you had made a template you really like, just go ahead and create like 10 posts based on that template. If it's photography, go ahead and take 100 pictures of a space you really like, because in one day you will use all of them. So it's just thinking about like, if you're in the mode of creation, stay there and keep creating, because there's never a waste in creativity. And then this one, it kind of is similar to the accountability partner, but it takes it a step further. So you could actually host co-creation sessions, which is something that I do. I love it. I think it works very well. I do it with a few of my friends. I do it with a colleague. It doesn't even matter if you're in the same industry or if you're doing the same type of projects, but you're setting an intentional few hours to create. So for me, I usually use this time to create content for myself, whereas my friend is creating content for her own brand. And so that's really great because we're not talking to each other, but we're sitting there intentionally making content that's going to help us. So it's an accountability partner, but it's also just taking it to the next level where you're actually sitting and creating. And again, if it's with the same accountability partner, that would be awesome, because then you could say, okay, at the end of 2 hours, I want this done and this done. What are you going to have done? And then you can kind of hold each other accountable from that baseline as well. So between kind of like the smaller action items and these kind of bigger picture continuing momentum, I think it already kind of soothes and eases any of those initial insecurities that you might have had. And you realize that, this isn't so scary. But just to kind of tie up today's workshop, these are really good affirmations to just say when it comes to honestly any part of your entrepreneurial journey, because I know a lot of times I get in my head about everything, not only just the content. And I will say, now I'm trying to post once or twice on LinkedIn a week and once or twice on Instagram a week. And now it's kind of like immersion therapy. It's just gone. I don't have a lot of that anxiety anymore. Some posts will get a lot of attention, other posts will not. And I can't sit there and question why. I'm sure it has to, I mean, I have some idea because I work in this industry, but what I'm trying to get at is all the nervousness and anxiety will go away once you have a secure foundation and once you start doing it over and over. But let's get back to these informations, because I think they're awesome and you should use it at every point of your personal life and your side hustle slash money making gig. You are relevant. Your story matters right now, exactly as you are. You deserve to be heard, not when you're healed, not when you're perfect, but now. There is space for you online and in real life to show up safely, powerfully. Okay, I messed that one up. There is space for you online and in real life to show up safely and powerfully. Let go of the myth that you need to become someone before you share. You already are. You have a unique voice that someone out there needs to hear. Your journey can inspire, connect, or simply affirm someone else's. You don't have to do it all today. You just have to begin. You're not alone. You're part of a community. You're part of a community creating with care and courage. So why I like all of these is because this is tends to where my like evil brain slash trauma response comes in and says, are you sure the market you're in is pretty oversaturated? It's okay, you don't need to post. Well, boom, there's always space for me. The other one that my brain always tells me is, you know, build before you start posting because you shouldn't ever post with just kind of a small following or only your website set up. Those are all reasons that our brain will tell us to not do something. I do agree you should have some type of foundation or some type of calling card. So, in case your content does go viral, people know how to contact you. But you do not have to have everything figured out. You do not have to be perfect. You do not have to be in tip top shape because I promise you, I don't know when that day is going to come. So it's better to just start today, start idealizing, start creating, start something. Because when you gain that confidence, you're going to be so ready to start posting. So, again, I hope that this workshop was a bit longer than I thought it was going to be, but I think it's just a great reminder that you're not alone. There are so many people like you going through this same process of questioning themselves, the fear of being judged, the fear of being seen, especially for women going through divorce right now. I know it's a big transition, and I know sometimes there are like privacy issues that you have to be worried about, but even just getting some words and some graphics, all of that can bring such a benefit when it comes to really launching this business and building it as you go on. Because again, just posting is the beginning. Continuing the creation and solidifying your tone and your voice is an ongoing process. So let me know if you enjoyed this and let me know if you need a little bit of an accountability partner. I was thinking we could do some type of community coaching or something monthly that we're showing up. We're showing up our projects that we've created. We're showing ideas and just making sure that we're kind of all on track, regardless of what stage you are. Maybe you have an idea, or maybe you already have a full-fledged business with clients. Doesn't matter in what area of this process. I think we can all show up and hold each other accountable for some situation. All right, ladies, have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk soon.